President Trump's bold and controversial transgender-related executive orders have been framed by liberals and their media allies as harmful to minors. Our Amy DeLaura explains how shifts to the culture war may save a generation of America's youth.
My healthcare provider failed me in many ways, but the worst was pushing me towards medical transition when I was just a child.
Detransitioner Chloe Cole testified in front of the State Senate Committee on Public Health and Welfare on Senate Bill 63, the Help Not Harm Act. It would prohibit healthcare providers from performing quote-unquote gender-affirming surgeries or prescribing puberty blockers and hormones for minors. The now 21-year-old explained how she was given puberty blockers and testosterone at 13, had a double mastectomy at 15, and now must wear bandages on her chest every day, among other complications.
But doctors manipulated them with a false ultimatum. Would you rather have a dead daughter or a living son? They loved me. They wanted me to be okay, and this was the only option that they were given.
A tomboy as a child, Cole started thinking about transitioning to a boy after being exposed to a myriad of content on social media supporting the idea.
The algorithm of Instagram actually started recommending me a bunch of, a lot of LGBTQ content, particularly trans-identified females who were around my age.
Cole received life-altering, irreversible treatments around that time, and thousands of her peers were doing the same. Data from the nonprofit organization Do No Harm showed from 2019 to 2023, over 13,000 gender assignment procedures were performed on minors. A world away in Washington, D.C., the same day as Cole's testimony, President Donald Trump signed an executive order announcing the federal government would no longer, quote, fund, sponsor, promote, assist, or support the so-called transition of a child from one sex to another.
Protecting women from radical gender ideologies.
Ooh.
It was the first of many watershed moments this year, turning a movement that's been harming young men and women on its head.
It is now the policy of the federal government that there are only two sexes, male and female. Sanity has been restored.
Now, 10 months later, things are shifting, either because of Trump's policies or because of the cultural shifts that helped return him to the White House. New data shows identifying as transgender or non-binary isn't an absolute freefall among adults in the U.S. The Cooperative Election Study, a survey by YouGov, shows from 2022 to 2024, transgender identification has been cut nearly in half by young adults. Another report made waves when data showed college students identifying as transgender or non-binary had also been reduced by half in just 2 years. On top of this, those same students reported feeling less anxious and having lower rates of depression. The Kansas bill Cole testified in favor of passed, joining a bevy of states, 27 in total, that have enacted similar policies meant to protect the most vulnerable among us from life-altering surgeries and puberty blockers. Several global sports organizations enacted policies effectively banning or severely restricting the participation of biological males in female sports.
We have a 10.
God bless you, Mr. President.
Some were a direct response to Trump's February 5th executive order keeping men out of women's sports.
I was very excited to see the executive order come out of the Trump administration. I was there with a multitude of other females that day for the signing. It was amazing to be a part of that piece of history.
I spoke with Linnea Saltz, who became a female sports advocate after being forced to compete against a biological male in college.
Me sending an email to the NCAA in 2019, essentially being silenced for my outcry, to having the individual with the largest microphone in the world, the President of the United States, inviting me and my colleagues in to celebrate fairness in women's sports. It was unlike any experience I could have ever imagined for myself.
Trump's executive order was a sequel to his January order, with the added threat of cutting federal funding, which spurred organizations into action. Since then, the U.S. Olympic and Paralympic Committee barred transgender women from competing in women's sports. The National Collegiate Athletic Association changed its participation policy to limit competition in women's sports to biological women. U.S. fencing and U.S. swimming now only allow biological women to participate in women's competitions.
I was proud to hear that they had made the decision that biological men are not allowed to compete in women's sports. It's not fair. It's obviously a complete differentiation. There's a reason for separation in sex, and I'm glad that they upheld that.
No matter how controversial, Trump's stance and executive orders on transgenderism is exactly what his constituents voted for. And the ripple effect is clear. It's galvanized states, politicians, medical facilities, and sports organizations into finally doing right by America's youth. I'm Amy DeLaura for Washington Examiner.